Welcome back to Epilogues, an unpacking of the weekly Haftorah. You're listening to Rabbi Yaakov Trump. This week we are going to be learning together the Haftorah of Parshas Massei, or it is the second Haftorah which comes up in the 3-week period. Our Haftorah is derived from the second Perek of Yirmiyahu, from Perek Beis, Pasuk Daled to Chavches. That's the central part of the Haftorah. And we do have the custom to add on one extra pasuk at the end there from Perek Gimel Pasuk Daled. We'll see why in a moment, while it's the capstone. And some have the minhag to also add in two psukim from the beginning of Perek Daled. It should be noted that this is the immediately following section from the Haftorah of Massei, which was the first prophecy of Yirmiyahu, which was Perek Aleph up till the beginning of Perek Beis. This is now a continuation. However, it differs in the way it's described. The tone is completely different from the first Haftorah. The first Haftorah was Yirmiyahu's initiation into Nevuah, and the idea of this Sir Nafuach. There's this pot which is boiling, and the north is facing north. We hear about the Makel Shaked, we hear about the staff which is flowering, but Hashem does remember the kindness of Israel in the past. Our Haftorah is full with anger, with wrath. There's a terrifying message in our Haftorah. It is accusation of Hashem against the nation of Israel. The images and the ideas actually speak for themselves without even learning the Mefarshim. Just reading this Haftorah is something which should shake one to the core, which is why it's very much germane to the time that we are in during the 3 weeks. A question could be raised as to when this prophecy was actually given. So, unlike most Sfarim in Tanakh, Yirmiyahu is not in chronological sequence. And so it is important to always ask this question when you're learning a Sefer Yirmiyahu, when was this actually given? So the truth is it has to have been after the first Perek, because the first Perek was Yirmiyahu's initiation to being a prophet in the first place. However, having said that, it is not obvious as to when it is given. When you look at some of the imagery and some of the things that Yirmiyahu says in this Haftorah, it does sound like he's describing Israel, or Judea to be more precise, in a stage of disarray, in a stage of siege and difficulty. So it does seem to be that there already is problems on the borders from the description of the enemies coming in, which are said very clearly in this Haftorah. It also sounds like Avodah Zarah, idol worship and pagan service, is something which is prevalent in society at this point in time. And so it is placed, generally speaking, towards the beginning of Yirmiyahu's career, about 35 to 40 years before the destruction. Yirmiyahu at this point in time is a young prophet. He is in the reign of King Yoshiyahu HaMelech, which matches in a number of ways. First of all, the main issue that Yoshiyahu HaMelech is doing is spiritual reformation and getting rid of Avodah Zarah, which makes sense that Yirmiyahu is augmenting that message. He is leading this charge on a spiritual level, the spiritual values. You cannot do such a thing. We also hear about that at this point in time in the geopolitics that the Assyrian Empire in the north is crumbling, and into that void step a number of pretenders, a number of people who want to take that power, including Egypt in the south, and so there is reference given to that as the rise of Babylon emerges. So a lot of the themes fit very much into this, and it therefore follows suit very much so. However, it is important to appreciate that this Haftorah is one of great complexity and anger, as we hear from Hashem. Let's look at it in small subsections. The first section we'll look at is Pasuk Daled to Pasuk Ches. In this section, HaKadosh Baruch Hu essentially asks Israel, why is it that you are ignoring me? And it's so powerfully stated. He says, Ma motzu avoseichem bi ovel ki rachaku me'alai. Why did your parents leave me? What ill did they find in their relationship with me, the Almighty, that they left me? They went after that which was vain and empty, and they became empty themselves. He goes on to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, do you not remember? Where is Hashem who took us out of Egypt, who revealed it to us on Sinai, who brought us into the land of Israel, and gave you this beautiful land? And instead of thanking me and asking where I am, what you did is you rejected me. You were matame, you impurified this land. And while this was all going on, HaKohanim lo amru Ea Hashem. The Kohanim did not ask where God was. The Tosei Torah lo yada'uni, and those who held the Torah did not know who I am. And the shepherds sinned against me. And the prophets themselves were prophesying for Baal. And they went after that which didn't help. You'll notice over here that through this entire Haftorah there are two general trends and accusations. Number one is, why did you leave me? And number two is, why do you leave me for something which doesn't work? For a defunct system. You've abandoned God for something which doesn't even work. So a lot of things here. The grievances just in our section are, why do you leave me? Why do you not look at your past and have some gratitude? Why do you run after emptiness? And I gave you a land of plenty, and you made it empty and disgusting. These are all the grievances in this first section. Notice that there are four different entities in society being accused over here of being part of this. The Kohanim, the priests who are supposed to be role models, teachers in the Beis Hamikdash, are part of the problem. The Torah, that Rashi says, or the Dayanim, the judges in society are perverting justice, or not doing their calling. The Ra'im, these are communal social leaders, and the Nevi'im, those are the ones who represented actually the prophets of Baal. We saw many false prophets around the times of Yirmiyahu, who created great distress for him as well. Part of the anger over here is that Israel are not really like the other nations. They experienced Hashem directly. They saw Exodus, Sinai, and then were brought into the land of Israel. So it's even more difficult when the reckoning comes, because they rejected Hashem despite knowing this. So the cost is much higher. We now move into the second section, which is from Perek Beis Pasuk Tes to Pasuk Chaf. In this section, Hashem describes how the nation of Israel left Hashem, and how Hashem left them as well. He gives a number of descriptions of this. He says, first of all, you should know, in the end of the day, ki ivru iyei kitzim uru'u v'keidav shilchu v'isbanunu ma'oid uru'u kimina mi'keihein ha'isakazais. Look at the other nations. Are you any different to them? Do you think that you are any more special? That you deserve special? No, it's because of what you do, and now you have lost that. Ha'heimir goy elokim v'heim aloy elokim v'ami heimir kvoidai b'lo ya'il. You found me, and then you rejected me. You left me for other things which don't make sense. And he gives a few parables in this section. The first is digging a pit. So in those days when you wanted water, you had to dig into the ground to find a be'er, to find a well. And so Hashem says, Azvu makor mayim chaim, you abandoned the source of pure water, of good water, to search for pits of water which don't really give you good water, which don't hold the water well. That's who you've been looking for, in contrast to the Ribbon Shalom, in contrast to Hashem. Then he goes on to describe another parable. The other parable is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Anochi Natati Sarek. I planted you as a pure tree, and then you branched out, and you connected with all other kinds of ingredients. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu then ends this section by saying, Hashem says, I gave you freedom. I broke those oppressors that you had, and then you, in response to that, but you were adulterous to me, and under every tree, under every bush, you were adulterous to me. You never kept that same level of commitment that I gave to you as well. The Malbim does point out over here that in the first mashal, which is the idea of looking for other pits, and then as opposed to the second mashal, which is introducing unwelcome elements into the relationship, the first mashal is even worse, because when they were digging the second pit, when they were looking for something else, it wasn't like they even knew what they were looking for. They just didn't want the relationship with Hashem. So you dig in all these places for other sources of water without even knowing you're going to find it. That's how terrible it goes. You'll notice an interesting phrase which appears over here in our psukim in this section in Pasuk Yud Beis is Shamu Shamayim, that the heavens stand astounded al Zeus. This is a phrase which is entered into the idioms of Jewish society. Shamu Shamayim, we talk about when something is terrible. Rav Mendel Hirsch, in his commentaries on the Haftorah of Hirsch's son, says the idea is that the very nature itself will mourn the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Israel is not living up to its pact, its agreement with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We move on, and then now the description over here in Psukim Chof Aleph to Chof Daled is describing again the idea of adultery, the fact that people are not chaste with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Anochi tatich sorek kulo zera emes. I gave you the pure seed. I found the forefathers, the foremothers, created a nation. Now you're cozying up and introducing the seed of false and other foreign vines as well. HaKadosh Baruch Hu essentially is again attacking this lack of commitment into the marriage with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He then in Pasuk Chof Hei talks about warning about going to seek other nations. Be very careful to going and finding other nations who are going to be able to give you the security that you think You need, in another point in the Haftorah, it talks about the danger of going to Egypt and Ashur and Assyria to try to find your strength over there. That's not where you will find your strength. And finally, this last section from Chav Vav to Chav Ches, he describes how even when you come in front of me as well, I'm not going to listen to you. Even if you're going to come in front of me now and clean yourselves, I'll still see your stains. I'll still, because you turned your neck against me, you turned your back upon HaKadosh Baruch Hu as well. In this section, he describes the swords against your prophets. It's a very painful description over here, where he describes how the prophets, you Beis Israel, that you yourselves embarrassed or turned your swords against your own prophets. What does this refer to? So the Radak says it refers to them killing their own leaders, like Zachariah Kohen. Earlier on in Tanakh, when we hear about Zachariah, not Zachariah the prophet, but Zachariah was the priest. His father was Yehoiada, was one of the people who reformed society, and then when he reprimanded people on Yom Kippur about their actions in society, they didn't want to hear the drasha. They didn't want to hear anybody reprimanding them, and they killed the very person who was supposed to be leading them, which led to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, one of the things which is talked about in Kinos. And the Radak Kohen quotes his father, says this is the idea of rejecting the false prophets when they come up. You didn't reject those who you should have rejected as well. A lot of very sad descriptions over here. Finally, the Haftorah closes where we fast forward to Perek Gimel Pasuk Dalet, and with this standalone pasuk, which is Haloi Me'ata, if is not from now, Karas Ali Avi, you called me, my father, Aluf Norai Ata. I am the Aluf. I'm the essentially the leader, the one, in your from your youth. You are, and this is how we describe HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's the return. The Aderes Eliyahu points out that the word Atah in the last pasuk we read comes from the idea, the pasuk in the Torah where we say Atah Yisrael Ma Hashem Elokech Shalom Yimach. What is that Hashem wants from you? Now, O Israel, what is that Hashem wants from you? Just to fear Him. And therefore, Yirmiyahu is playing on that pasuk and saying Atah Yisrael. Now, what is it? Halami Atah Karas Li Avi. That at that point in time, you need to go back to your roots. You need to respond. You need to do teshuvah as well. We start hearing about the harshness of Yirmiyahu as we read through this Haftarah and we think about that generation which was not imagining destruction being imminent at all. Babylon hadn't yet fully gained its footing in the Middle East at this point in time. Assyria is crumbling. Egypt is looking for options. Yoshiyahu is reforming society. When you hear the harshness of this prophecy, it can be understood why people did not take Yirmiyahu seriously, because it is so harsh. And people could easily have denied and said, Yirmiyahu is being a little harsh on us. Things are all right, things are getting better, things will be fine. But unfortunately, they weren't. And Yirmiyahu was trying to show them what was really going on. This is the power of Yirmiyahu Hanavi. We conclude the Haftorah of Massei. In the meantime, have a wonderful day and a meaningful Shabbos.